Oh my God. She's so drunk. Those who don't appreciate life do not deserve life.
Hello, and welcome to Cheers to Fears, where we take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Alex.
And I'm Tucker. And today we'll be finally wrapping up the Saw franchise, at least for now, with Jigsaw, made in 2017. Jigsaw was directed by the Spierig brothers and written by Josh Stolberg and Pete Goldfinger, who were both involved in the Piranha movies. This Saw movie was the first one that was not made on a yearly basis, so in saying that, they had 7 years to make this movie compared to the one that they usually have. This can be felt as the plot this time feels much cleaner than normal.
Jigsaw starts off with a criminal avoiding the police. The criminal in question, Edgar Muncer, also happens to be an informant for Detective Halloran, a shady detective. We are then shown that there is a new game being played as John Kramer's voice is heard by the new players. We then fast forward to the forensic squad, Logan and Eleanor, as they start to uncover information that Jigsaw is still alive.
It's come to the point in the video where we reach spoiler territory, so with that being said, we recommend that you pause the video and watch the movie with the drinking rules on screen now.
It should be added for Jigsaw that this is one of the few Saw movies that you can watch without being completely lost in the plot, since there is not a lot of confusing plot points in comparison to any other Saw movie after the second. With all that being said, let's get right into the rules.
The first rule for every horror movie is death. When you see somebody die on screen, you take a drink. This rule collected us a total of 16 sips.
Scream, cries, and yells is another common horror trope for the Saw franchise, and if you were to drink for all the ones in the movie, you would end up with 18 drinks.
On the ground! On the ground! Drop it right now!
Now, onto the Saw-specific rules, starting as always with Billy the Puppet. If you come across him in the movie, that's a drink. This specific rule gave us 4 drinks.
Now, onto every time somebody says game or Jigsaw, you drink. For this, we had a total of 27 times. Wait, 27 just for game? How many do we have for Jigsaw? 25? Holy shit!
It's Jigsaw.
I want to play a game.
Game.
Jigsaw.
The Jigsaw Killer.
The game's
Game.
Jigsaw.
Jig fucking Saw. Game.
Game. Jigsaw. Jigsaw.
This game is gonna be won.
Jigsaw. Games.
You're about to play a game.
Well, I guess that is a total of 52 drinks for a single rule.
So we should mention that the style of Saw has significantly changed since the other installments, which will mean that some rules are extremely inflated, while other rules are very lackluster. Keep that in mind while going forward. However, back on track, we had 5 drinks if we drink to every flashback that you see, without spoiling anything, that is.
The most consistent rule we had throughout the franchise has always been the new traps. You see one, you drink. In this movie, we calculated 9 new traps, and therefore, 9 more drinks.
Moving on, we have the rule that if you see a tape played, you drink.
Play the damn tape, Mitch.
We altered this rule a little bit for this movie, seeing as how they are more in the future this time around, and tapes are a thing of the past. So we included most recordings or rules being read, such as the rules being read off of an intercom or Jigsaw talking on a USB drive.
The games have begun again.
For this, we counted 8 drinks.
Play the tape, Mitch. Play the tape.
Next up, we had whenever you see a Saw, you... Okay, what is the mercy rule again? Okay, so we're not going to take any more drinks than 5 per scene where there is an abundance of something. Regardless, that still left us with 36 drinks.
Now remember when we said that many of the rules were very inconsistent? Well, this is a prime example. For flashy or jumpy editing, we did not see a single instance where this happened in the movie. Therefore, we did not drink even a single time for this rule. For consistency's sake, we decided to leave this rule in, just because it was one of the rules that we used throughout the entire Saw franchise.
Continuing with our theme of inconsistency, we move on to our Jigsaw exclusive rules, which is every time John Kramer or John Kramer is said, you take a drink.
John Kramer.
John Kramer. Kramer's
John Kramer.
John Kramer.
And of course, we had 26 drinks for this rule. It is also worth mentioning that saying John Kramer is only 1 drink and not 3. So, as you can imagine, this rule hurt our liver just as much as some of the other rules did in this movie.
Ending with a theme of inconsistency, we have the last rule, which was drink whenever a timer starts. For this rule, we only had a single drink, so keep your eyes peeled. With that, it wraps up all of the rules for Jigsaw.
And our total amount of sips for this movie is... Give me a minute. 175, which is the equivalent of drinking just under 6 standard 12-ounce cans. That number is based off of a 30 sip per can scale. Would you like to explain the main problems with the rules in this movie, Tucker?
Gladly. So obviously we still have the drinking pattern where tape is played, flashback, same old story as all the other ones. But in this one, there was so many times where they said Jigsaw, John Kramer, and game. In total, that accounted for 78 of our drinks alone. Which 78 drinks is basically 2.5 beer just for 2 rules.
Yeah, and not to mention there was so many saws. There was,
Yep.
I think 36 was the count. And thank goodness that there is a mercy rule, because there would be probably more in a single scene than there was in a movie.
Yeah. So obviously this was one of our harder Saws alongside with Saw 3.
Oh yeah.
But we felt like we had to end the Saw marathon on a hard, challenging note. So let's move on from the drinking and talk about the twist of the movie. What were your overall thoughts on that?
I like the twist a lot more. It felt much more clean compared to, I'd say, the other movies. Like, so for example, the other one where there was a time twist was Saw 2, where they had Daniel trapped in a safe the whole time. This one felt so much cleaner, and there was a lot more clues that it was in the past. So, like, for example, nobody in the game mentions the Jigsaw killer at all.
Right.
You can see how Billy's design's different. You can see how one of the common times is they actually use tapes instead of, I guess they use the intercom too, but they didn't have things in modern technologies such as the USB drive, for example. I guess the other main indicator was the blender trap. In the blender trap, Eleanor said it was a trap that they used in a previous game that nobody knew about, and then it was used in this game.
Yeah. And I guess another point that made it clear that it was in the past was John Kramer was alive. Who in their right mind would have thought that John Kramer was alive, because we clearly see the coroner going through his body at the beginning of Saw 4.
Yeah.
I guess somehow he just survived brain cancer and all of that trauma to his head.
10 years later.
And then now he's just somehow alive.
He's living freer than Walt Disney will in a couple of years, I guess.
I guess he's just Jason Voorhees now. So now we'll talk about some of the traps in the movie, starting with the bucket room.
Okay.
So that's the one where they have the buckets on their head, and then they're basically being pulled closer and closer to the wall with all the saw blades, which gave us a lot of drinks. In
It was not a good scene to drink to, for sure.
Yeah. So on top of all of the saw blades that were there was also a lot of screaming, obviously. And that didn't help with the drinking.
So I guess the other thing to mention is how Logan was originally in the trap, but Jigsaw saw mercy on him that he shouldn't have been killed because of a mistake on his part, pretty much. So if you see later on in the movie, Logan has a bunch of scars on his back. So anyways, you assume that happened to Logan when he was at war, all those scars on his back, but they were actually from the saw blades. You can also say that it's harder than it looks, especially being somebody who had a few workshop classes in high school. You do not want to put your hand near that blade, especially since you do not know what's going to happen. The one guy, I think his name's Mitch, he's like holding his finger up to it, and I'm pretty sure that's a bad idea because that's just going to take your finger clean off.
So that brings us to the chain hangers, where they had the 3 needles hanging in front of Carly, and basically she had to choose the right needle that would have freed them all, and she clearly knew which one to take because of the number that was written on it was significant to her, and she just chooses not to take the needle because she's scared of needles, I guess. So she's kind of an idiot.
I guess she was saying, like, no, get those needles away from me. I don't know what's in them. He literally said the antidote was in it. Just take the needle. I mean, then you won't get stabbed with all 3 and you take all 3 instead. Good job. So that takes us to the leg wire trap was the next one, where the guy had to pull the lever and basically just cut his leg to shreds.
Yeah. So at the same time as the leg wire trap going on, there was the other 2 people that were stuck in the grain elevator that was overflowing, and then there was things being thrown at them, like some saw blades again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a 2-in-1 trap sort of thing, where they had to be freed from the guy cutting off his leg. And I kind of liked how that was all set up, and like there wasn't a whole lot to it, but just the situation was kind of cool because clearly that guy didn't want to lose his leg, and
He had to save other people.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of good setup, the cycle trap, which is the blender.
Yeah.
That trap was teased that it took place in the past, which it did, because as we now know, the movie took place in a flashback.
Right.
So, good setup. The payoff was good. The guy was pretty mangled. I feel like the other thing that he could do is he could have grabbed the lever while he was just kind of sitting there. I'm pretty sure he was in hand's reach, so he could have just finished the trap there, but he decided not to.
Yeah.
Also, we learned a question today. Will it blend? Yes, it will blend.
So just briefly going over the shotgun key trap. That one was alright for what it was worth. Clearly, in the eyes of Jigsaw, Anna wasn't rehabilitated, but overall it was alright.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with her dying. She probably didn't exactly to get off the hook after killing her baby.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess that brings us to the final trap of the movie, which is the laser collar.
Yep.
The laser collar, I feel like, was the best trap in the movie.
I would probably agree with you. The payoff for that trap was amazing. Like, I didn't expect that in the end.
Oh, I didn't either. It's one of those traps where you don't think it's going to happen, like the reverse bear trap, but obviously they brought it back for Saw 7. This one, immediate payoff, and it was great. I'd also like to add that Detective Halloran now looks a lot more like one of those creatures from Stranger Things.
Yep. After the laser collar got to him. Yep.
Yep.
So now that the traps are out of the way, let's talk about Jigsaw versus the other 7 Saw movies.
Oh yeah.
What were your thoughts on those?
So yeah, the main difference with this is there was not a lot of jumpy editing. Obviously you can see that from how he had 0 in the rules, but the main thing here is the storyline was so much more fleshed out.
Oh yeah, they clearly had a lot more time working on the storyline, so on top of the traps, they were also trying to tell a story, which was evident in this film.
Yeah, I feel like the plot twist was actually reasonable this time around too.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like super forced, and you could actually kind of figure out the clues, put the pieces of the puzzle together. Along with that, yeah, just the characters, I feel like, especially for new characters, being new to the franchise, whatever you want to call it, these ones are fleshed out. You can definitely see like Detective Halloran a little bit, but you can see Logan. I feel like the characters were a lot better done.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Especially compared to, I'd say, what, Saw 7, where they had people just coming in who we really didn't care about. Like, Bobby was fine. You hated the other people, kind of, like,
Matt Gibson. And finally, we come to the award ceremony, where we award one not-so-lucky nominee the Darwin Award. This award goes out to the character who made a stupid decision that resulted in them getting killed, somebody else getting killed, or simply resulting in something bad happening that could have easily been avoided. This award can also be given to a character who's just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
First up, we have Carly, for figuring out which one of the following needles was the antidote, but refusing to take it, resulting in her death. That is like knowing the answer to a test, but leaving the question blank.
Next person who's worthy of a nomination is Mitch, for not grabbing the handbrake when the cycle trap was momentarily stopped by Anna.
And last but not least, we have Eleanor, for being involved with the police forensics, but being such a big fangirl of a serial killer that she actually went out of her way to buy several infamous Jigsaw traps. She is just asking for an imitator to steal all of her traps, and then who's going to be the primary suspect, Eleanor?
And the winner is Carly. For being so afraid of needles, she would rather get stabbed with 3, 2 of which contain hydrofluoric acid. Does that make sense to you? Because it certainly doesn't make sense to us.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed the last week where we looked at each and every Saw movie besides Spiral, which is released today. If you end up playing the game alongside the movie, or if you have any feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also, where would you rank Jigsaw out of all the other Saw movies?
Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next week episode where the games are just beginning. We honestly don't know what we're going to do yet, but stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying cheers to fears.